everyone. Happy Friday. Be happy. Be happy no matter what your circumstances are. There's always something to find joy in. That's my motto. That's what I try to do every day. Sometimes I succeed and sometimes I don't. Some of you know I lost my mom a couple months ago. Still fresh, June 2nd. Yes. And just the other day, you know when things happen, you know those random moments, I call them divine appointments, that you're going about your regular day and all of a sudden something out of the ordinary just moves you to do something. This happens a few times for me, and I trust it now. I know that when something like that happens, God's in it, and He has something He wants us to know, and He wants to say something to us or show us something. So I was on the floor in our library music room, I call it, in between the living room. It's an open area. And I was playing with my puppy dogs, Diesel and Bonnie. I was having one of those emotional days. I was thinking about my mom a lot, and the writing dreams I've had and goals, and kind of feeling basically that things weren't working out. There was just so many obstacles. It takes so long. My fellow writer friends, you understand. The creative work is not cut and dry. The creative work is opposite of type A personality needs and the to-do list. There's not a thing you can get off that list every single day. You show up and you trust your instinct and you touch. It's like an artist with his painting. One color, one layer at a time. So anyways, I was needing some love. So I got down on the floor, and sure enough, my little puppy dogs come running over, and it just fills my heart. And while I was sitting there, I turned around a little bit, playing with the dogs, and I looked over at my library, and I admired it, and I was thankful for it, and every time I look at it, it brings me great joy. You know, as someone who loves reading and books, it brings great joy. And there's decorations, I have knickknacks, I have my couple collection, I have all kinds of things that reflect who I am as a person and what brings love and joy into my heart. So I was looking at the shelves, and I was all of a sudden, just out of the blue, because I don't do this all the time, but I was like, you know, I want to go look at those books on the left side specifically. A couple months ago, I had the same kind of leading, and I had worked on the other side of the library. I wanted to touch all the books, and while I did, I dusted. They don't always get dusted, to be quite honest, but I was moved. So I scoot over there, I scoot my butt along the floor, and the dogs went and started playing and doing something else. But then all of a sudden, I'm sitting by the bottom row, and I'm pulling out books. And then I'm like pulling out the whole shelf. And then I call out to my husband, because I was buried in books on the floor, and it would have been hard to get up. I said, do you mind if you bring a rag? Scott, could you bring a dust rag? And the pledge, I'm going to dust. Spur of the moment, that's what happened. No kidding. And then it wasn't that one shelf. It was the next shelf and the third shelf. And then when I was done, I stood up and kind of dusted that whole row up. It's a big library. But here's what happened in that process. I came across some of the books that my mom had given to me. My mom was a great reader. She loved reading, and she was a writer too. And I spoke about this at her funeral. I spoke about that, you know, our dreams, our family is a creative family. And my dad shows his creativity every day in his landscape business. And I remember being in college, and one of my first papers in art class, I compared Dad to Monet, and I wrote about it. Because Monet was an artist, and he carried that art into his gardens and to all he did, and that's what my dad does. He can see a dirt hill and see something none of us see, and then he creates it. So my mom and I are word people, and she wrote a lot throughout her years, but as far as I know, she destroyed everything she wrote, and she would rip it up. Anyhow, I came across some books, so I don't know how much time I'll have today, but you may have heard of them, but they were a phenomenon. When they came out, everybody wanted to meet these people, and after reading these two books, I can tell you, but I came across the Delany sisters. So this book and this one. And Having Our Say was the first book that came out. The Delany sisters' first 100 years. These ladies were 100 and 102 when they wrote this book, I believe. And it was awesome. And then the demand for wanting to meet them and learn more generated the second book, the Delany sisters' Book of Everyday Wisdom. Well, my mom, so these were one of the few I pulled out. There was a couple other books that my mom had written in, and she's like me, or actually I'm like her, where when I read a book, I put the date I finished reading it, or I found it, and my name or initials. And sometimes my mom would actually write when she started the book and when she ended the book. So I opened this book, and there's my mom's writing. And so I had a good moment right there. I felt I was with my mom. And I loved on her. And I thanked her for her love of reading that she passed on to me. And it was so many emotional things happening at the same time. Number one, that God, that this generational gift and dream of writing and publishing things of the heart and stories. We're story gatherers and storytellers. God, will we ever see this in reality on this earth? My mom didn't get to see it for herself in a bigger way. For herself, she wrote. But for me, too, I journal all of the time, and I have many projects and books. I have a lot of things in the computer, but I go way large. I need help to bring it in. And I just said, God, will these dreams ever see reality? Why is this in my heart the way it is if it's not going to be completed into something? That's my current question. But her words, and it was October, the same month I had came across these books. In 94, she read the book, October 27th, 94. And she made a note. And my mom did this, and I do it too. My mom and I was thrilled to know we share this. That we underline things, we fold pages and underline things that meant something, or we got something out of the book that spoke to us. And books spoke to us in our current day life situations. She wrote, was impatient to write. There's her dream. And she was feeling what I was feeling in that very moment. Will this ever come to pass? Why is this so great in my heart if I don't see any completion to it? Something, a product or something out of the heart. And then she wrote, these women wrote their first book at the age of 100 and 102 years old. And she also made some other notes to herself. Abraham was 100 years old when God said he would have a son. Abraham considered not his age or the deadness of Sarah's womb. He just believed God. That was profound. And I felt like God was saying, Georgette, just believe me. I don't have to see. I don't have to know. It may not happen in my life. It may. Just believe me. And I said, God, I will. I'll believe you. Anyhow, there was so many things in this book that just touched my heart and taught me. These women were awesome. And I'm telling you what, no wonder there was a great demand for them to come speak to all the kids and all the schools, and so many groups wanted to just glean more of their wisdom. And, they talk about participating in tradition as old as time, passing the knowledge and experience from one generation to next. And these ladies, through these pages, this book, just gave me a lot of wisdom and a lot of information. I quickly scanned the book, first off, for all of my mom's underlines. I wanted to know what she was thinking, and I wanted to see if I could get it and be there with her. And I love these two sisters just got along together so fabulously. They were hilarious. And then she on one page she circled the I am free on page 33 in this particular version. And the sisters were talking about the Civil War that had ended in 1865, but white America was not ready to surrender its belief in Negro inferiority, the rationale that had helped create the institution of slavery. My mom noted that, and she said the thinking that creates slavery is an inferior complex. Inferior, then she defined it. Lower in space, lower in order, status, quality. Poor in quality, below average. An inferior complex, a neurotic condition resulting from various feelings of inferiority. One thing our family has struggled with is insecurity and lies of low self-worth and low self-esteem that we had taken on as truth. It started in our childhoods, my mom and then mine, and we have different experiences that generated those beliefs. So I can kind of see where she was, what she received from that. You know, she talked about, these sisters talked about back in slavery days, things were bad, but in some ways getting your freedom could be worse. You know, think on that. That hit me. Our freedom could be worse. And then sometimes people don't know how to be free. And I resonated with that in some regard. Just so many things. My mom underlined quite a few spots, but this book was, I read it very quickly. There were so many nuggets. The personalities, they had me cracking up, these two sisters. One was stronger in some ways, and they were just so cute. And then she talks about he was isolated immediately. Disease, and disease isolates you. She made a note on that. And the Delany family, you know, the religious faith formed the backbone of who they were. And they talked about prejudice. You know, this is an African American people. And their family was of various colors, shade-wise on their skin. And they talk about that. And they talked about how they grew up with things. They had a close-knit family, a very large family. And they learned a lot about the culture around them, but they had a good family. They were very successful. One sister was a dentist, and another sister was an educator. And they made a difference in our world in a lot of ways, and they were known. They left a good legacy. I would have loved to have met them. I would have loved to have sat down and had tea with them, especially after getting to know them through their book. And I'm so glad that they were able to do this and share their words with us. They truly did share good nuggets of information. I would recommend you find, this is an old copy, maybe Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or find it at a Goodwill. But having our say was just awesome. Trying to find, oh, I love this, you guys, listen to this. You had to decide, am I going to change the world, or am I going to change me? Or maybe change the world a little bit just by changing me. Is that just awesome? It's true, isn't it? It's true. We all have different circumstances that try to get our attention, the good or bad, and I tell you what, they rob us. So we can't change other people. We can't change their hateful attitudes or their prejudice or their resentment towards us, but we can change ourselves. And maybe because we changed ourselves just a little bit, something in them would shift as well, or with the people around us. I was blessed to spend some time with my mom through these books. And live and let live. That was one of the sisters' attitudes. They said prayers before, in the morning and at night. They did yoga every day. They had a very specific eating regimen, and their health was important to them. And one sister, said, I don't know why I'm still here, and other people weren't. But I don't fret over it. It's in God's hands. And the other book, the wisdom, Book of Everyday Wisdom. And there's more writing from my mom. I was so tickled. And she wrote Living Like a Slave Under Law, Old Ways. You know, back then, if you had a career, you couldn't marry. It was either you got married or you had the career. You did not do both. And my mom talked about that. She just underlined it and spoke to her. And she underlined old ways and new ways. Because each of us have that decision every day. Are we going to continue with old ways? Or are we going to walk in new ways? So let me share with you. She underlined that young people need to know their family history, and it's the responsibility of old folks like us to tell them, is what the sisters wrote. And I'm actually researching family history. Listen, it's important to know where we come from. A lot of what we are, who we are, is from where we've come from. Our family history, our generational line continues within us. And it's good to know, because there's good and bad that continues in our generations, whether we like it or not. And once we are familiar with things, we can make changes to the areas or things that are not so good for us. You can't pick your relatives. She wrote that. She underlined that. You can't change the past. And too many folks spend their whole lives trying to fix things that happened before their time. You're better off using your time to improve yourself. Excellent wisdom from the Delany sisters. My mom underlined that, and she underlined it. Folks today tend to be so busy and independent that they abandon the daily habits, like eating meals together, that keep you close. Is that not gospel truth? There's such a disconnect around. You know, people think there's a connection when you talk to people on social media. No, it's very different. True connection happens face to face. You know, sit down meals. You get to know people over a meal. And then she underlined this of what one of the sisters said. Folks who let their little rituals go are missing out on a lot. Boy, oh boy, is that not the truth. You know, I bet you some of our best memories are those little rituals we had with our family or with our kids. You know, I have some really happy memories of my daughter and I. When I was during my single mom years, you know, finances were hard, but I would always have a couple bucks and we'd go to Dunkin'. She would have her little tire donut and I'd have the coffee donut, and we'd sit there with our little drinks. She also got the little frozen drink, the Frappuccino, whatever they had, the coffee mocha drink. And we'd just sit outside, watch the cars go by, and we'd say what colors we liked or things we noticed. And that was our fun. I mean, those are little rituals we did. We did that every so often, and we looked forward to it. Here's something else she underlined. Besides telling a lie is a sign of fear, it means you can't face up to something. If you tell a lie, you must ask yourself what you're afraid of. Wow, strong, isn't that? And then here's another one my mom underlined. Children, all you have in life is your good name. If you lose that, you've got nothing. If a person lies about one thing, you can bet, sure as I'm sitting here, that they'll lie about anything. People who are honest are trustworthy. Each of us doesn't have to reinvent the world. You don't have to try to do everything yourself. You can learn just as much by watching and listening as by doing. Wow. I'll have to read this book again because I read it fast, and I'll tell you what, it's just amazing. She underlined what Sadie had to say. Watching and listening, those are extremely important abilities to develop in yourself. Watching and listening. And no one can know it all. I like it. Here's something Betsy says, or Bessie. I'd say one of the most important qualities to have is the ability to create joy in your life. And she also underlined, and Bessie said, there's nothing like a garden to help you appreciate the passage of time. There's seasons. There's seeds. You plant seeds and there's a harvest. I love that one. You know, I had I call her my spiritual mama, Miss Margaret, would always say, you know, we plant seeds every day, and there's good ones and bad ones. Pray for crop failure for the ones that aren't so good, and pray, fertilize the good seeds so we have a bountiful, joyful harvest. You know, we all have to do it for ourselves with regards to creating joy in our life. It's true. It's each of our responsibility. I love it. To lead a good life. Never lose your sense of humor. The happiest people are the ones who are able to laugh at themselves. Pay attention to the little things. One of the best qualities a person can have is to be observant. Think carefully before you promise to do something. Know when to keep quiet. When somebody's nice to you, don't take advantage of it. And put your faith in the Lord and you'll never be alone. I won't give the whole book away. And there's more my mom underlined too. Obviously, she loved this book just as much as I did. And you know what? These ladies have wit. They were witty. They told the truth. They were awesome and funny. And my mom was the same way. She would be silent, and then all of a sudden she'd come out with such a comment and make everyone laugh. But it was profound. It was profound truth, and with her sharp humor. So you will enjoy these books. I'm going to read them again. Having Our Say by Delany, the Delany sisters. So check them out, you guys. Worth your time. And I was thankful. You know, God will do that. Trust God with your heart. I hope you know him personally. He makes life so much better. There's sadness everywhere at times and darkness, and we're in a tough place right now. There's a lot of division. But you know what's going to bring us all together? Is to remember, there is a creator. Faith and love. Love overcomes evil. Love overcomes. Love brings unity and harmony. We don't all have to agree. We are different. We were created to be different and unique. And our differences are a blessing to people, not meant to hurt. So have a great day. Have a good weekend. Go get a copy of these books somewhere. I know there's used books everywhere. Get yourself a copy for your house. But these will have special memory for me because they're full of my mom's writing and her thoughts and her heart. We got to share space together. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm encouraged in my dream. Don't die. The dreams don't die, and don't give up on your dreams. Believe in God. God's the one that showed me that he puts the dreams in our heart. So believe him. The outcome is totally in God's hands, and it's out of our control. We just show up by faith and as he guides our steps. Have a blessed weekend.